let's talk about even just the origin point of the solo record.
Mhm.
And you know, obviously you did vocals and drums on that. It's a very kind of balls to the wall metal record,
Yeah.
very well reviewed, very embraced by fans and critics. One of my favorite critical quotes says, "Rejoice in the Suffering is an unapologetic balls to the wind metal record and a robust reminder that you are a one-man heavy metal whirlwind with one of the great voices of the modern era." I mean, that's about,
Wow.
I mean, what what else would you want from a review if you could write it
That's
yourself,
yeah, I don't remember reading that, but that's an incredible thing to hear. And I'm very thankful for somebody to think that or write it. Um, yeah, that record was just something I've been wanting to get done for years and years and years. And it was just a two-man operation, myself and my friend Craig Blackwell, who played all the guitars and bass on that. And then I uh, brought on Zeus to do the mixing and the mastering on that. Uh, I didn't want I didn't want him to produce it. I didn't want anybody to. I wanted to self-produce it with Craig.
Mhm.
It's just like, well, I wouldn't have done that. I don't care. This is what I'm. This is for me, and I'm
That's the
gonna
whole
do it.
point. It's getting
The,
literally has
the
your name
whole point.
front.
Yeah, the whole point was that I don't have somebody telling me what they would do. I don't want to hear what you would do. I'm gonna do what I want to do for once. And one of the things that I think is was great about that was I don't feel any compulsion to have to push a heavier style onto Queensryche. Number one, I wouldn't do what I don't think is appropriate for the band anyway.
Right.
Like I understand that gutturals are not that's not gonna fly. Now I might do them live at the end of Queen of the Reich, or I'll do like a Fry scream at the beginning of Screaming in Digital, and like I have fun with it live, but I would never approach any number one, the music doesn't make me want to deliver that way, which is great. Number two, I would never want to change that sound of the band because I feel like I have to like prove to people what I can do,
Right.
or that I have to like get this off my chest. And this is the only way I can do it is through a record. And I'm in this band, so it's going to have to go on this record, make it work.
Mhm.
I don't ever do that with the band.
Which happens
Um,
to a lot of bands, and that's a fool's errand. There are a
yeah,
lot people have so
it's
much to get out, and they force it into, into the square peg where it doesn't fit, and it's like,
right. It's like
"Do
so
another
like
record, do
Jason
another band."
McMaster. Yeah, Jason McMaster, I had done an interview with, and he had said, he goes, "You had a itch to scratch," and I said, "Exactly." And I think it's really healthy to be able to do these musical things outside of the band that you're in or that you're known for. Stylistically, that's the stuff that I love of what I wrote. More stripped down kind of metal, melodic. It's kind of thrashy. It's this, it's that. Um, and I didn't want it to sound anything like Queensryche anyway, but it did help me that I don't feel like, oh, I want to do a high scream here. Like, if the music calls for it, I will, but there wasn't that urge because
Mhm.
I had already gotten all that out, and everybody got to hear like what I can do on this record. There's high screams, there's gutturals, there's scratchy stuff, there's pretty singing like the beginning of Vexed, there's the ballad Crossroads to Insanity, there's a bunch of cool stuff that there's thrash, like Vanguards of the Dawn Wall, that's very overkill vocal kind of
Mhm.
delivery. So I got to just do all the different styles, and that there's more that I can do that I didn't even do on that record, but it was a great outlet.
Yeah.
And it did really well. It did really well. I can't complain.
I love the cover art for The Verdict, and I love the cover art even more for the solo record. That was the thing I was, particularly, blown away by.
Thank you.
I guess it just didn't even occur to me. It's like, oh, it's Todd's solo record. I don't know, a picture of him on the front or something, and but that really bold iconography.
Yeah, I got it right. I got it right here, actually. Let's see.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks so great, man. It's such a striking image. So,
And everybody everybody does like dark, dark. It's
Yeah.
evening, it's dark, and like all this shit to look at. There's too much stuff.
Mhm.
And I thought, you know what? I'm gonna do the total opposite. I'm gonna do pure white with my initial, my logo with the Ouroboros around it, and I had it hand drawn from a friend. And it's just gonna be a bold, clean thing that when it's this big on your phone on a thumbnail,
Yes.
and you
Yes.
see 30 thumbnails, mine stands out uh, among almost all of them because of that. And I thought, from a
Yeah.
marketing perspective, it's just, even if you're not looking for it, like, you're gonna see it.
If you're on your producer's website and you're scrolling through his discography, that record's like boom, because it pops,
Yeah,
and it's an image that, like you said, it works on the tiniest phone,
yeah,
or if you got the kind of car where where the album image is up on the
yeah,
little screen, and it also would work as a gigantic backdrop at Wacken or the biggest festival. It's that kind of
yeah,
image. It's
yeah,
hard to pull
yeah,
off from a design perspective to have something that works.
yeah. I like the concept. Again, there's enough to look at where you can kind of check it out, but you don't feel overwhelmed with all of this stuff happening. And it's like, what am I so much to look at. I just thought, less is more in many instances, and I just want to do it. And I think that going pure white, and the vinyl is pure white. It's just very clean. It's like when you go in, it's like when you think, like, I'm an Android guy, but when you go into an Apple store or you look at Apple products, everything is very clean and sterile and simple. It's simplified, and there's no confusion about what the product, the packaging, everything is done in it's just very clean and simple and palatable. Sterile comes to mind. It's just this very,
Yeah.
not lifeless, but just this certain way. And I always felt like, boy, the white is giving me that feeling. And I think it would go great on a lot of merch items. You could
Mhm.
identify it from far away if people start to learn the image. And that's my logo now. Like, and it, on the next record that I do for myself, I may tweak the Ouroboros. It may be a different version of him, but it's always going to be the initials with that. And that's the new logo. So
Yeah, I love that. Which
yeah,
is it's something 20 years now, album 11 about to come out, but that's something Demon Hunter has done and set out to do from the beginning, which was, this is the symbol, and this is going to be the cover every time, every record, and it's going to be the same dimensions that fill the same space. And then anything around that, it's up to interpretation. And so there's been,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah,
multiple variations of it over the last 20 years, but
yep.
really cool thing. And then, yeah, when you have if we end up with 4 or 5 of your solo records, how cool does it look to have that uniformity in the design? It's super
Well,
cool.
it's like Iron Maiden doesn't change the font, but Eddie changes.
Right.
So
Exactly.
Eddie's there, but in a different way. So maybe
Exactly.
it'll always have the TLT, but the Ouroboros may be more wispy or smoky or gothicy, or I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know.
So I'm gonna ask you this, and if I'm way off base, which is totally fine, we can just chop this last question about the solo record out. But
Fine.
are you a fan of The Sopranos?
You mean the TV
Yeah.
series? So I've never watched the whole series. I've only seen parts of it, but it's right up my alley. Like, Goodfellas is one of my favorite movies. Casino is one of my favorite movies. So I'm big into like that whole kind of scene, and I understand that it's based around that kind of mobster family
Yeah.
thing.
It's I mean, it really ushered in this whole, golden age of television with Mad Men and Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul and Game of Thrones. I mean, The Sopranos
Yep.
really set the template for that kind of prestige television, and it's a show I've been through 5 or 6 times. But I ask because there's a character in the show. I want to say it's season 3, who references this Buddhist saying that you must joyfully participate in the sorrows or in the suffering of the world. And
Oh,
it's a line that Tony Soprano himself says
I didn't know that.
as well. And yeah, and so as soon as I heard the album title, I
Yeah, the
thought,
parallel. Yeah,
yeah,
I can see that
and
now.
I
Yeah.
know it's Buddhist in origin, that and
Yeah.
where the characters got it and where the writers got it and all of that. It didn't originate with the Sopranos by any means, but it's a there's a lot. It's a show where throughout all of its seasons, there's a lot happening thematically, where even the mafia aspect is almost the window dressing. It's like
Gotcha.
Mad Men is about people in the 60s at an ad agency. Yes, but it's really about this, and that.
Right.
And you could take that phrase, rejoice in the suffering or joyfully participate in the sorrow, and apply that as a thematically as something that comes up over and over again throughout
Right.
the show, and comes up a lot in hard rock and heavy metal, and anything that's big and emotional and dark and unafraid and unapologetic to plumb the depths of the complications that are inherent in our existence and self-awareness. So yeah, without at the risk of trying to appear too heady, I really appreciated that album title, and it's not that
Yeah,
often.
thanks. No, it had to do with my dad's death, with his suicide. So that's kind of what it's about. But I mean, I could certainly understand that parallel, and there could be other um philosophical ideas around that album title, but it was the first song that we wrote for that record. And always loved, it was just what I wrote in the chorus. And I thought, man, this sounds like a really good album title. I think I'm going to name the album, like, I don't care what else I write on the record. Like, and I don't even know that this has to be like the title track. Like, I
Right.
just love that, what I wrote. And I said, this is what the album is going to be called.
Well,
So,
and was that something that you know because we talked about all the reasons creatively that making the record made sense? Was that something emotionally, personally, that you knew you wanted to explore and sort of process?
yeah, 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 totally.
Yeah.
Actually, there was a point where I wanted to call the record "Open the Gates," and which means a lot of things to me. And but then I thought, well, there's a band called At the Gates, and
Mm.
there's probably something called Open the Gates. Like, I don't even remember if I searched, and I thought, I don't think that sounds as clever or as unique as Rejoice in the Suffering. And it's kind of like this oxymoron, like,
Hmm.
Joyce in the suffering. Like, is that sadistic? Like, what the fuck does that mean? And I know exactly what it means, which I'm not gonna say, but it has to do with my dad's death. And that was the first song we wrote. It sounded killer. And I was like, nope, I think that's just what I'm gonna stick with. And so that's what I stuck with.
It reminds me of one of those things like you know the answer is the question, or
Yeah.
the journey is the destination, and things that you hear when you're younger and are like, that doesn't even make sense, like that's stupid,
Right.
it's just some like tired, people think that sounds deep and meaningful, and then you get older and more life experience, and all of a sudden those phrases unveil themselves, they reveal all these layers
Yeah.
and mysteries and depth beneath.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think rejoice in the suffering is a phrase that fits right in there, where on the surface maybe it's kind of like, well, that sounds contradictory for its own sake.
And
And then
I've had several people reach out, and say, "Hey, man, like, dude, if you're gonna do on the next record you do, like, I want to be a part of it." Like, I've had several guitar players hit me up and be like, "Dude, I wanna, collaborate with you on that, or I want to play a solo on it, or like, is there any way I could be a part of that record?" Like, I've had several very seasoned guitar players hit me up about that, and they really liked it. And I sent some copies out to Alex Skolnick and Chuck Billy, and
Right.
they were like, I can't believe that two guys did this whole thing.
That's
And
a huge compliment.
I sent one out to Mark Osagata, and
Right.
like he took a picture of it in his room, like playing on I sent one to Jeff Loomis, and he was like, wow, dude, this is killer. And it's like we sent some out to some people that we thought would dig it, you know?
Yeah.
And so it was nice to have that kind of endorsement. Unfortunately, it didn't get any play on like satellite radio, but whatever. You know, first week sales were really good.
They were.
And you know what? It was just, again, if nobody bought it and it was not received well, I know what's good, and it came from the heart, and it was like the shit I want to do. I just wanted to get it onto some kind of a medium here, and have a tangible thing of what I needed to get out of my system. And
Yeah.
so I'm gonna do a follow up to that, but I also have like uh some songs written that are like melodic death black metal, where I'm playing all the guitars and drums, and it's pretty much like all gutter, kind of like more like a behemoth vocal delivery,
Wow.
kind of like the bonus track One by One. It's, you know,
Yeah.
but the guitars are more I I would say like Gojira meets Dark Funeral,
All
you
right.
know, like more tremolo picking of chords, and big chorus, chanty choruses, some singing, but like a nice blend. It's a nice blend, but it's definitely like way darker and heavier than like my solo stuff. You know, that's more like Halford's Resurrection, if you will, whereas the melodic death black stuff is, you know, maybe I'll do like an EP of that, just 4 or 5 tunes, or I don't know. I mean, even considering just honestly, man, just like putting out like a single,
Mm-hmm.
and just like never mind doing a full record.
And you can now, you know, it's like the barrier to entry is so
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking I'll just play everything, I'll record it and get it mixed and mastered, and literally just like I'll shoot a video for it, and then I control it all, I get it all, no, and just be purely digital. And then after so many are out, I would do maybe a special vinyl that has those songs on it,
mm,
you
that would
know?
be cool. That would be
Yeah.
super. And it's yeah, it's funny, you know, bringing our conversation full circle, thinking about your solo record. You know, I'm obviously a huge Maiden fan, a huge Priest fan, and I love a lot of the Halford solo stuff, and I love the Bruce solo stuff. You
So
know,
do I.
I mean, Chemical Wedding is, you know, I'd have to sit down and look at a list, but I'm sure that there are Maiden records that I like significantly less than I like the Chemical Wedding, which is like one of my favorite albums of all time. You know, and that was kind of the,
Yeah,
you know, Accident at Birth, and then especially Chemical Wedding and Bruce and Adrian back together. That was kind of the inevitable, like, they
totally.
got it. They're just making Maiden records now, so they
Right.
need to just go back to Maiden.
Yeah.